Then thanks everyone for joining and welcome to today's L&D Executive Round Table. It's a regular session that we're hosting, always around an interesting topic related to learning and development. And today we're going to look into some of the biggest threats to learning and development, which is budget cuts and competing priorities. We have a guest speaker on, Selvendran, who I will introduce in a bit more detail later on. But I will start by quickly outlining this event format today, so everyone knows what to expect from today. And this is where my slide is stuck a little bit. Bear with me for a second. Okay, there we go. Right. So today's session, again, is one episode of a series of events. We call them the L&D Executive Roundtables. And what it is really is a regular networking event. We've been hosting this for about 3 years now, where the idea is really that L&D professionals can come together, network with each other from all parts of the world, and also get some interesting insights they can take with them after the event, and hopefully also apply something in their learning and development strategy. So by nature, of course, of the event, usually we have corporate learning and development professionals on here, but also trainers and coaches, other external L&D service providers, and depending on the topic, also sometimes C-level executives. And the reason we are actually hosting it, or we started hosting these as well, is that we were actually looking for a format in the L&D space where the session itself is not a one-sided flow of information, but just something where people can engage a bit more and also ask more questions and maybe give their experience on things, or maybe even if it's just their opinion on things. And it was quite difficult to find something like that at the time. So we just decided, you know what, let's go ahead and start with this type of format ourselves. And yeah, that's how this type of event started. And just to give you a quick overview of the general structure, because that's what we can expect from today as well. So we always build these events around a specific focus topic. Again, today it's going to be budget cuts and shifting priorities, threatening learning and development. And we hear a keynote speech. We have a speaker on that gives us insights on the topic. And then after that, the idea is for the second half of this webinar that we have like an open session. Everyone can introduce themselves, where they're joining from, and then really also share, ask questions, give their take, their experience on the topic, or even other related things as well. So really, we're trying to make this a very open round where everyone can have a share and say something. Okay, then just a very quick introduction on us as the host today. I'll keep this very brief. But for everyone who's not familiar with Blue Elephant Solutions, so we're a Singapore-based developer of learning and development platforms, and have for quite a while already been looking into how we can also integrate AI in a way that it's not just a buzzword that everyone kind of wants to put onto their label, but also that really actually adds value for the learners, for the instructors as well. We have a range of standard products on the market that you can see here. One is on the left side here called Knowledge Gym, which helps people after a training better internalize and also apply practically what they learn. And it does start by AI-driven spaced learning. In the middle here, you can see the AI Conversation Coach, where you can train realistic conversation scenarios you might encounter on your job. And when I say on your job, could be any type of job. You can freely create the scenarios, really create the personas. So really a lot of use cases possible there. The AI Knowledge Assistant, which is basically your little know-it-all ChatGPT assistant for the pocket, just that it doesn't only have general OpenAI knowledge or general learning large language model knowledge, but it actually uses your organizational information, your organizational knowledge as the basis for the answers it provides. And then on the right side here is a current project that we've just rolled out for early access. It's a joint project with the Ministry of Education here in Singapore, which is a learning platform that combines all these things, but also actually adds things like a competency framework, and where you can actually map your job profiles in the organization to certain competencies and then automatically assign training based on any gaps. And also actually measure how the impact of various training activities is on your business KPIs. So really practical to have that around as well, to really see what is my ROI and where can I tweak to achieve what I want to achieve with my organization. I think I keep it at that. Today's not so much about us, rather than about you and the topic we're discussing today. So without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce today's speaker to us in a bit more detail. And again, thanks, Sal, for joining, for taking the time. I know how busy your schedule is, very high demand currently. So thank you for squeezing us in. I appreciate it. To give you all a bit of an overview, so Sal is a really experienced HR consultant with a focus on learning and development and leadership coaching. He looks back on over 2 decades of experience in this space, and a lot of these years come in leadership positions as well, and across multiple spaces, multiple industries like aviation, retail, non-profit, telecommunications, just to name a few. One of these roles as well was learning and development manager at IKEA for the whole of Malaysia, where he was really very involved and key to establishing the learning and development strategy and the initiatives and culture building initiatives as well across Malaysia. And he now runs his own consultancy, Cape Consulting, where he uses this experience that he has to really drive organizational transformation through learning, through culture, performance and empowerment. So make sure to connect with him if you need any insights in these areas as well. Also member of the Higher Education Committee of the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce. And he's certified as an NLP facilitator, as well as HID Corp certified trainer, which of course then means as an NLP facilitator, he also integrates behavioral science and experiential learning into the training experiences that he crafts. And before I pass over to him, I'll end this with a fun fact. So when you don't find Sal helping organizations transform and get better at what they do, you probably find him in the kitchen cooking, where he unwinds. And I think that's probably equally as beneficial for the people around. So again, thank you very much, Sal, for taking the time. And at this point, I will let you share your screen. And then I'm looking forward to your presentation whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Max. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My full name is Selvendran. Everyone calls me Sal, so please do so. It's a lot easier. My full name is a mouthful. We're going to jump into the slides because I believe that Max has already done my introduction, so I'm not going to go much into that. Aside from the fact that if you're going to talk about food, we need to take this offline and definitely have this conversation separately. So please allow me to share my slides. I'm going to keep this somewhat simple for the slides so that, hold on. All right, so focusing on a couple of topics, which is going to be budget constraints and cost-cutting measures, as well as, obviously before that, we're going to discuss about why learning and development is crucial for organizations. Now, coming from a background of sales and marketing and managing NGOs, as well as from the learning side to the project management side, learning and development is embedded across the field. That's always been a given. However, a lot of organizations tend to park it under HR, which is where it stays in an organizational chart. However, it is a wider scope of L&D being involved in every aspect of the business, which is something I'm going to touch on as well. The key challenges, as we talked about, the budget constraints and cost-cutting measures, as well as competing priorities. We will run through some of those and a few strategies to overcome these challenges. Now, while I've put them as somewhat single line solutions, of course, it's far more complicated, and we can also discuss about that and the future outlook of where it's going. Now, based on our organization at CAPE, we are an AI-driven organization. Of course, everyone is and everyone should be, no matter what, you can't fight it. But there are ways to also include the human aspect of it. So I'll jump into that for a bit. The value of learning and development, if you ask anybody who's not in the field, they'll go, oh, you're a trainer, or, you're here to teach me something, or I'm here to learn. However, when we present, or when I present it to organizations, the value of it is always enhancing employee performance. It drives innovation and adaptability. Now, in doing that, it encourages critical thinking, it encourages independent decision making. It also looks at the empowerment aspect of the individual, which is extremely important. It does boost employee satisfaction, and it is a proven fact that it contributes to employee retention. As we know, the rule of 3+1, which is from a talent acquisition point of view for HR, is that when you lose an employee, it costs 4 months' salary to locate the person, a new replacement, and bring them on board. But you're looking at a 6-month loss. And a lot of times they leave when they feel that they can no longer grow in their role. And that's where the convincing of using learning and development as a retention strategy has got to be implemented within organizations. It has to be viewed as an investment and not an expense. And therefore, this is something that I've always asked all the business leaders to integrate their L&D costs within the annual budgets by departments, by divisions within the organization. So it's a tiered effect, right? It's not just for next year, we allocated X amount for trainings or for development, etc., and then, hand it out to everybody. It has to be integrated in. It has got to be with an ROI of what was going to be the cause and outcome, what's going to be the before and after. And that's going to be something that has to be done from the beginning, and it's probably done very much early in advance. And when it's done right, it does create a competitive advantage within the organization, sometimes within departments as well, in going, who is going to create a friendly, competitive advantage to each other, and obviously positions the organization to be more competitive in the market. That's a given, right? So that's always worked that way. The cost cutting. Now, one of the key challenges, this is something that I believe everybody in the L&D field has dealt with. Cost cutting, when I say cost cutting by management, it's usually by management or organizations, and it usually happens more often than not, either within the second quarter, third quarter, and then on the fourth quarter, everybody's, they realize they've got the extra budget and they're rushing to spend it. So looking at the cyclical processes of the business, how you position your L&D and the rollouts is going to be critical, right? So of course, L&D budgets are often cut during financial pressure. Training programs may be seen as non-essential when there is pressure on the managers to deliver on goals that have not been fulfilled yet. And this is a pattern that a lot of organizations have as soon as their business year starts, right? They are going to fall behind on their sales targets. looking at the cycle of when their targets to fulfill are supposed to happen. It always goes in a negative before it goes into a positive. That's always been the case on a year-on-year role, right? And a lot of times they're going to say, okay, you know what? Let's just push this to later and look at focusing on the essentials. However, integrating the fact that you can learn and work and grow at the same time, that has to be the process moving forward. It cannot be work and earn revenue, and then, when we have revenue, we look at training, right? So that shouldn't be the case. Of course, the impact on the learning and development for the department, I'm looking at it as an individual. I'm looking at it for the L&D of the organization, as well as the departments. It reduces training effectiveness and obviously hinders long-term growth. Now, this is something that it's been a year in, year out argument that I've had with multiple stakeholders, be it with the organizations I've been with before, as well as the organizations that we currently manage at CAPE right now. And, it's great to want to, however, there needs to be proof in the pudding, if you want to put it that way, right? So where we have summarized it is the L&D, they've got to link learning and development to business outcomes, right? You've got to show how training increases productivity and retention, and start with the projected gains, and of course, obviously working with stakeholders. Mapping out your stakeholders are extremely important. They are not just the decision makers, they go all the way down to the buy-in from the managers. The second the managers buy in, their direct reports will follow suit. And then it goes, so it trickles downwards, it trickles upwards, and it definitely goes sideways, right? When you have managers that are passionate about developing their team, other managers will follow suit. It is always a mirror effect, and that's something that works without you trying too hard on it. And this is something that I've always encouraged so when we do change management for learning and development presentations, we tend to start with the managers first, being observed by the key stakeholders, so that we can get their buy-in and look at their pain points and circumnavigate how we're going to be able to overcome them. Using data, and this is going to be for learning and development teams, understanding the metrics of performance improvements year on year, month on month. For some businesses, it is. For sales, obviously, it is month on month. That's a given, right? When you look at more wider scopes, customer service, marketing, that's going to be probably in a tertial cycle or a quarterly cycle. And in looking at their metrics, how they're performing, the before and after assessments that need to be done, all that will factor in and it will matter. However, this data has got to be shared back to the learning and development team and not just kept within the departments. So we've always encouraged that the L&D heads, including HR, sit in these meetings, right, and have a discussion with these managers and these departmental heads along with their teams to show that, it is not a subcomponent, it is a component of the department itself, and that not only the managers can tap on the L&D heads or tap on learning and development initiatives, everyone can, and it's got to be widely made available. And in saying that, in making it widely made available, you can't be everywhere at the same time. That is seriously, we all wish we could, and a lot of times we try. However, looking at the options that you have within your organizations, do you have LMS and e-learning? You can create basic e-learning programs. Do you have micro-learning sessions that are done, that are shared, especially in project analysis or when projects, when agile project systems are done, right? When are they done? And what are the outcomes? What are the best practices? And in creating the fact that we've always had a rule that when we have developed a team, we always say that they are now, they are effective to be a trainer or train the trainer sort of situation and approach. So they become the in-house subject matter experts to what they've just been trained in. Additionally, once they have probably passed within year 3 of their role, they've gone from aspirant in the role to expert. That's how we look at it. By year 3, they are the experts of what they do, and therefore they should be the ones that's additionally sharing what they have learned within their role and their best practices to everyone else. And in creating a team of subject matter experts, it takes the pressure off the L&D leaders. It additionally allows the subject matter experts to go out there and do what they do best, sharing the best practices of what they know is the on-ground activation of their work. While I'm jumping through these topics, of course, later on, you're always welcome to let me know, and we can always discuss on how you'd like to go back and look at any of this, and we can discuss it. For the second key challenge, right, competing organizational priorities. When other initiatives I put here as overshadow L&D efforts, I've always said that, we live in a state of uncertainty. That's a given, right? There's no such thing as saying that, it's definitely going to happen there. You go in with the best intentions of that happening, the best plans of it. However, other initiatives can be pushed up and forward, and therefore, as learning and development teams, your level of flexibility has got to work both ways. If you're being asked to be flexible in learning and development efforts or L&D efforts, then it's got to be, all right, let's meet halfway, between the fact that we can be flexible on this. As leaders, how flexible can they be to meet us, right? So that has got to be a conversation that cannot be one-sided. Limited time and resources for employee development is always a given. Now, you can't be developing everybody all the time, 24/7. It's not business-centric. At the end of the day, these organizations, or all organizations, are a place of business primarily. So with the limited time and resources, what are you sharing with them for them to have takeaways to develop themselves in their free time? So creating the concept of simple things as like the everyday university, right? So every day that they come to work, their managers would probably ask them in their one-on-ones, which is highly important, was, okay, in the last month, what were the areas that you have developed in, and what are the challenges that you're having? How can I help you with the challenges that you are currently experiencing? And in doing that, it allows the employee to start developing a personal approach to how they are empowered to carry out their work, how they're going to use what they've learned and implement it, without you having to go to them and ask them for this, because you're not going to be there observing them while they do the learnings that they have. So in the limited time and resources, everybody has that. Engage your managers, which is what we're always going to say. All right, engage your leaders, engage everybody in this, so that it is a collective effort that moves forward. The impact of this would be, of course, the programs are deprioritized. We've all had our programs canceled, right? I'm not the only one. Everybody who's in here, you can raise your hand if you've definitely, or send an applause thing if you've had a program moved on to a different date. However, the knockdown effect would be that the employees who are these team members, these people that you see every day, they were looking forward to it, and that's going to impact their excitement at work, right? It's going to impact they will, of course, lack the necessary skills, but it's also going to impact how they feel valued, and that's going to matter, right? And while if they keep feeling that their development is going to be an afterthought, there is going to be a knockdown effect on that. Now, aligning learning and development with strategic priorities, there's got to be a support of learning and development that comes into the business plan of the year, right? So the business plan for the year for everybody here, you obviously have mapped out your 2026/27 business plans, right? So they've got to be a support of learning development that comes in to fulfill the company goals in a certain percentage. That's got to be discussed. Encouraging empowerment, innovation in areas that are difficult to tell, like customer service. Obviously, yeah, we're going to look at customer satisfaction indexes, etc., so forth. Now, how can developing the team, right, increase the customer satisfaction index, lower the the reply rates, etc., so forth. So those kind of things have got to be implemented already within the business plan rollout before it goes out, right? Collaborating with leaders is essential, right? To understand their needs. It is going to change according to the market, for those in Malaysia. As we know, our budget just got released and everybody's looking at how it's going to benefit them. Now, in every country, their annual government budgets that come out has an impact to the business. And that has got to be factored in to how a slight pivot to the business plan is going to happen, right? So for some organizations, it is a minimal impact. For some organizations, it is going to be, they're going to stop everything and go, let's aim for this, right? Because we just heard that this is going to happen. We're a part of this initiative. A lot of times I've seen organizations that are suddenly being awarded grants, being awarded processes or additional income from the government, and that suddenly becomes the key focus. So constantly keeping your eye on the ball and saying, like, that's great, we encourage this. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that your team members still need to rise together, right? And that has got to be something that the leadership of the organization has got to continuously endorse. And that helps with integrating what is their changes within their business plan, which will happen to be included into the L&D initiatives. And to look at, of course, critical skills for success. Now, this is where I would always say you can plan and keep planning, right? And we all know how that works. However, being able to change it and be flexible with, right, we need this for now to ensure that this short, low-hanging fruits are achieved, right? We're able to pick them. That has to be done. So do prioritize the critical skills for success within the organization by department, by endorsement of the HODs, etc., or the C-suites. You can look at that and how you want to go forward with it. So just to recap, please demonstrate the ROI of learning and development. There has to be a proven improvement of that you can map out of a before and after. And even if there's an after, it's got to be continuous so the best part, which I always love doing, is in the after is getting the participants to share with their team members. And that is their learning. And because the more they share their learning, the more deep of an understanding they would have with it, right? And you just observe and see how it goes. Aligning, of course, learning and development with organizational goals. That's going to be paramount and important from the beginning. For anybody who has organizations that have set a budget, my advice would be to look at splitting the budget up and getting the departments or divisions to absorb a percentage of the budget and not just have it come from one, right? The organizations that go the budget's parked under HR, great. The organizations that go the budget's parked under talent development, fantastic. However, giving them a budget within their divisions allows them to better empower them to act on learning and development initiatives. Creating a culture of continuous learning is something we've always recommended, and it is not something as we're here, we have shared this with you, you leave empowered and it's great. And then 2 months later, we ask you, how was it? And you hear crickets. And as L&D practitioners, we know this, right? And we've done that. We have felt it from the participants. So they've got to continue to develop themselves, and you've got to continue pushing this agenda outwards. And to leverage technology and blended learning. Now, it's not just I'm going to share a bunch of slides with you. I'm going to maybe share what we used to do was, to the marketing team, would be like, in case you missed the current announcements in marketing for learning and development initiatives, here they are. And it's a 5-minute read, right? Whether it's the sales teams, so they can incorporate it within their weekly catch-ups, right? And things like that. And alongside with the organizational learnings that you've got as well. And you can have that. So the blended learning is going to be in multiple approaches. It also has to be done by the leaders themselves, asking these questions back to each other. What have we learned here today? What could we do better? What have we done great is always a great start. And what we could do better. And I think that would always help. And in looking ahead, of course, I get a lot of pushback when I work with universities that are worried about AI-based tools. They're worried about their students who are, when I interview or have the sessions with interns that are about to go to market, and they all look at, we're all heavily immersed within AI apps, within AI tools, and the reliance on them. That's fine. It is not something that you can walk away from, right? However, the one thing I have learned, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well, we all use AI on a daily basis or whenever we want to. The second you do a Google search, it's an AI thing. However, the one thing that AI can't do is being empathetic, and in including empathy in a part of your approach is going to be something that they would appreciate. So do consider that. The emphasis on soft skills, such as communication and leadership, AI can't teach you that. That has got to come from the individual. It's a learned skill, right? It is an approach that an individual needs to develop based on who they are as a person, as well as where the organization stands on it. So that is something that we've always encouraged, that having an open communication, or having a level of communication that is understood and acceptable within the organization, will directly impact positive growth within the organization. That's a given, right? And having the leaders sign up for this as well. And using continuous learning as the cornerstone of success. And we can go with that. So the key takeaways that we like to share is, of course, learning development is vital. It faces challenges as everything else does, and creative solutions and alignment with business goals will help overcome the obstacles. I believe I might be done. Yes, I am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure, and I'll hand you back over to Max.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, super relevant topic, I think. Really, really relevant approaches here that you shared as well. And I think sharing, I will also share my screen. And yeah, I just saw the Q&A slide that you had briefly opened there, and I think that's a perfect segue. So this part now, we've got about 25 minutes left, should really be about everyone on here being able to ask questions, to also maybe share their take on the topic, or maybe even they've made experiences with it, anything like that. Yeah, please feel free. It's supposed to be really an interactive session at this point. And yeah, maybe you can just quickly introduce yourself, maybe where you're joining from, and then again, feel free to ask any questions. And there's no need to be shy, really. That's really the purpose of this type of session. Yeah, really bring in your own experience, your own ideas, and yeah, ask away.
Maybe to just kick it off, maybe I just start so that everybody has an idea. So my name is Christian Borchert. I'm the CEO of Blue Elephant Solutions, the company that Max also is working for. So we have never met before, but I have to say the points that you mentioned, they resonate so strongly with me. And I was just, like I'm based in Germany, but I was in Singapore last week. And we had a meeting there with the Ministry of Education. There was a big event. And what we actually presented them is exactly that. We developed together with them a tool where the companies can first, they break down their strategic initiatives. They say, what are the goals that the company wants to achieve? And what are the enabling factors in the organization? What kind of skills, what kind of competencies do my employees need to make this strategic initiatives happen? Like if we want to grow our revenue, that's not going to happen by itself, right? So what are the steps we're going to take, and how are we going to support that with training? And at the very end, we actually then measure the impact of the trainings on the business KPI. So we have developed an algorithm that looks at all the training behaviors, the different training modules, and you can analyze what's the impact of all of that on revenue, customer satisfaction, whatever kind of business KPIs you want to load into our tool. We can make a correlation, and you can then, or regression analysis, and you can always identify how strong does a certain training support certain business KPIs. Of course, there's limits to it. Revenue is also impacted by the market and many other things, but at least there is now some KPIs that you can use. So the points, even that we never talked, like at least I never talked with you before, I think the points are they resonate so much with us on why it's so important to show the value of learning and development, and then of course make it as easy as possible and use a lot of AI to make it seamless, integrated, to hyper personalize it. So no further questions. You really speak from my heart, and I'm very interested to hear from the other participants in this group, because this is also intention here as a peer networking. So really to bring yourself in 1 or 2 minutes, briefly say where you're working, who you're working for, what's your name, and have you experienced some similar issues, or have you implemented some cool tools that would be great to share with the community, or made some good strategies. And normally it's a good practice to go from the top down. I don't know, Max, maybe you want to call the people to share their ideas. I think that's always an easy way to do it.
Yeah, sure. Let me just open the participants here. Okay. Top of the list, I have Jerry Lee.
May I, Max? I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, Samuel. Yeah, sure. Fire away.
Hi, everybody. Sal, thank you very much for this presentation. That was something I was hoping for when I decided to join this morning. And like Christian already said, I really could, see each of your points in my project. So if I just briefly introduce myself, my name is Samuel. I am Agile coach, so responsible for leading transformation. Before it was mostly on agile approaches, servant leadership, how to work in an environment, but not only since, but of course it was a multiplier since I learned to know about Blue Elephants and Christian's approach with integrating AI. That was a shift. So coming now to my question and point, what are your approaches, Sal or Christian, to convince management of the need of L&D, because the teams, and let me also say team lead on the realizing and delivering, they understand it, but it is, like you already pointed out, budget cuts, management decisions. If there are some approaches and experience you would like to share. how to convince them.
All right, thanks, Samuel. I will tell you this, and this is not something I would recommend for you to take on bravely unless you know you're ready for it, is I would convince the management that, look, this is what it's going to cost. And if we don't deliver, as the L&D team do not deliver an improvement on the bottom line, then you get to cut my budget next year, which is a dangerous game to play, I admit. However, I know that it will work. So it is more of us convincing the management that, look, we're putting our necks on the line here for this, and we're willing to walk the talk, and to say that you're not just throwing money into a black hole. That is, you're going to have to say, look, I'm going to ensure that we both work together, we hold hands, we are going to do this. I'm going to come to you and tell and brief you ahead on the challenges that are about to happen. And the before, this is the measurement of it, these are the metrics. Now I'm going to show you the measurements after and the metrics, and I'm going to prove to you that it is successful. However, that being said, your level of success and my level of success are going to differ. So let's have a middle point where we're going to have above this certain percentage. This is now acceptable. Anything higher, fantastic. Anything that is on the borderline of it, we need to discuss it. So I think that the buy-in would be that we're not just asking for, basically, you're not just asking for the funding, you're asking for the trust that we're going to be able to execute this. And the trust can only happen if I work together with you, right? I hope that helps.
Thank you. Maybe just as an add-on to also hear your opinion, Christian. I mean, you can give an insight from Germany, but also international companies. Is there a difference to convince people? In Germany, I sometimes have the impression, no, we talked about it, it's a budget cut, that's it.
Yeah, I think it depends on the market, right? So if there's markets where the markets are shrinking, the revenues are going down, and then there's cost-cutting rounds coming, then that is often also that people look into training. But on the other hand, it would actually be the one thing that might even help us to step up and be better. And then you have emerging markets. Malaysia, I think, is still a very interesting market, growing. But look at South America, where the investment into people is extremely important, and it's really it's not only an investment into, like, I recently posted on LinkedIn, right? There was this, the CFO asked the learning and development manager, hey, we spend so much money. What if we invest money into learning and development and the people leave the company? And then the learning and development manager says, imagine we don't invest the money and they stay in the company. Like, that's the problem, right? So really, I think this, of course, we always want to have more and more budget, but I think with really, like, let me no, I don't want to show that now. In a separate call, I'm very happy to show you how we do this analysis, because what we actually built in is that you can play around with the numbers. So once the data is crunched, you can say, what if, how does the revenue change if I increase the time spent on training? And then you can turn this knob and you see how the revenue goes up or down. Of course, it's a projection. Nobody can predict the future, but it's a solid, statistically valid model that is built, and you can really see the impact of the training.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thanks, Samuel. That's a great question. Right then, yeah, we have Jerry Lee in the call as well. Jerry, maybe you want to, yeah, also give a quick intro and ask away, of course, if we have anything to ask.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm actually driving, and I must confess that I did not get to join from the start until the entirety of the sharing session. But thank you so much, Selvendran, and thank you so much, you guys, for arranging this. Currently, I'm actually transitioning from a sales and marketing and advisors for ICDI to a new industry, which is actually dealing with automations of factories and warehouses. But I do concur with everyone in this sharing sessions that learning and development is very important. So my questions to Selvendran is, in the event of, in a situations of a budget cut and limited resources, which would be the main departments or the main business areas that we should actually focus the learning and development?
I think
Yeah,
Jerry,
like
saying
we
which
have different
departments?
business sectors, right? Like sales, marketing,
yeah.
HR.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. That will be my question.
Thank you, Jerry. That's a good question. Now, for any division, for any organization, the easy answer is going to be, let's focus on sales, right? Because that's always going to be the first thing. Let's focus on sales. Let's upskill the sales team, because they believe that sales brings in revenue, therefore fulfill our bottom line, right? It's in the order of revenue generating. It's been sales, marketing, customer service. That flow matters, right? Without marketing, you're not going to get the sales you need. And once you get the sales, you're going to need the customer service to fulfill the sales, post-sales service to ensure future sales. Now, so in that order, I would say those three departments would be the key focus areas, because whether companies admit to it or not, sales, marketing, and customer service, pre and post, directly influence the bottom line, right? In one way or another. So that's where I would see and I wouldn't call it like, if there's a need for a budget cut, I would say, look, coming from, and we're a HR organization, I always go, look, you know what? Maybe you don't need your Friday gatherings to be every Friday. Let's start with that, right? And where the company, so it's going to be a little bit of belt tightening in other aspects, and we're going to go for the budget cuts. It's going to be for everyone, right? Tertial outings, whether it's going to be any other benefits that could be maybe postponed, delayed to a later tertial or whatever it is. You can look at those budget cuts first before you come to the development budget cuts, because the development budget cuts are going to directly impact the organization. So it is going to happen. However, these three departments, I would always say, are key first, followed by, of course, following that would be based on your organization. If there is one, it's going that you have a logistics department, that's fourth, right? Being able to deliver outward. So it depends. From a retail standpoint, that's the fourth, right? So it depends on where you are. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. That helps me a lot indeed. I think it also helps to bring an important point, which is if there is ever going to be a budget cut, it should start with entertainment budget instead of the learning and development budget. That's a good point. Thank you so much, Selvendran. Thank you so much, everyone. I have no further questions.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, and we'll let you focus on the road. But thanks for joining.
Hello, hi. Can I go next?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, hi, and good morning and good afternoon to everybody. So this is Ziting, and I'm from the L&D team of Mercedes-Benz Malaysia. So really thank you for the call, actually. And in fact, I have two questions. But maybe before my questions, I can share some relevancy of my company with this topic as well. So because this is about cost cutting, right? In fact, for our company this year, we had tried a new strategy that will only utilize the training fund without having the actual money being paid for the employees' training. So that's why in line of this, right, I would like to ask for Sal. I actually have two questions. One is for Sal. So Sal, since you're experienced in the biggest MNC environment, right? Can you suggest some high impact but low cost learning strategy for us so that we can have some kind of recommendation and suggestion for us to have a clearer practice for next year? And after that, I'll go to Christian for my second question.
Hi Z. All right. So could you repeat that question? Did you say you want to have high impact, low cost learnings or trainings, if you want to put it that way. Okay, so being under Mercedes, you obviously have a levy balance in your HRD COP, right? For those in Malaysia, as you know, we've got our HRDC and our HR Human Resource Development Corporation, and you're a levy contributor. Now, in looking at an easy approach where you could start with a low-hanging fruit, create topic experts within your organization that can have, they're not going to be actual coaching sessions, but they can be sharing sessions, and they can actually claim for their time from HRDC. And I believe it's 50 ringgit an hour up to 4 hours a day, and that's 200 ringgit. Now, nobody's going to do that. If you ask me to give up my time in my department to go and teach someone else, that's going to impact my work and my, whether it's going to be my emails or finishing a slide or whatever it is. What if I said, I'm going to pay you for your time? 50 ringgit an hour may seem nominal, but hey, it's better than nothing. So they can actually have, there is something in ITRIS that you can access where you can have these sessions, and the money goes directly into your organization, and you can and your staffing can bill it. So that is, I would think, for high impact and low cost, always look from the inside out, right? Because your teams know your organization best. For the other side of it would be to create a continuous learning where anybody that's in your organization for more than 3 years are automatic topic experts. They may not realize it yet, so maybe that's where you want to point it out to them, that they are the topic experts. Hey, you've been in the role for 3 years. There's really nothing you don't know about it. So what can you teach for your downlines? So what can you teach your direct reports, right? And go along those lines. So therefore, you're actually creating a learning environment where there's a sharing. In that sharing, you can actually use an incentive to pay out to them from your ITRIS amount, from your levy balance. Maybe do that. I mean, I don't believe that you can do some things for free, but at the end of the day, what's your motivation? So hope that helps.
Actually really helps. I didn't know about that, to be honest, as a Malaysian. Thanks for sharing the tips. I have my next question actually towards Christian, because since I actually saw you have a banner in your back and it's like AI-enabled learning, right? So in fact, right now we're actually in the midst of curating for our L&D focus for next year. So I'm just curious, like, if Christian, you have any suggestion, like, or maybe your top 3 focus area which you can suggest maybe for like towards L&D for your company, which I can take it like as a tips as well.
Around the topic of AI or yeah. So maybe one last point to mention to Sal. I think what is very important, especially if you need to achieve a big impact with low cost, is to really achieve an impact. So make the trainings that you're going to do, make them last. I used to work for Siemens Healthineers in Singapore, and I was in charge for learning and development there. And what we noticed is we spend a lot of money on the best training programs, the best trainers, the nicest locations. We bring all the salespeople there. They're highly motivated. They learn everything. They come back to the office, and 2 weeks later, they still do whatever they did before the training. So high cost, zero impact. So that's why we actually founded this company. And one of our biggest changes in the learning approach is to have this spaced learning, which means after you do the workshop, make sure that you do some repetitions of the content. Make sure that it starts to form a habit in the salespeople. In this case, that was my target group, to really make an impact and a change. Because else, no matter how much budget you have, you will not make a change if you don't have a strategy to really implement that. And spaced repetition, spaced learning is a wonderful, very cost-effective tool to do that. You spend 100 whatever on training, you only spend 10 on the repetition, but that's what it really makes count the impact. When it comes to AI tools, it really depends on where your needs are. So if you, for example, Max mentioned earlier, we have something called a conversation coach, where you can create customer scenarios where your staff needs to interact with the customers. You can train your employees or your leadership team to have difficult conversations with the employees. You can, like, whichever conversation you can imagine. And then, of course, hyper-personalization is coming. So one of our approaches in our current new tool is that you only bring in content, and then you can repurpose this content in multiple different ways. You can have an AI chatbot access that knowledge, and you can have like your employees can have a conversation with that knowledge. So the AI is like a guide or a coach to say, hey, how much do you know actually about the topic? Before I start presenting you now 1 hour of content, tell me what you know. Tell me where you have gaps. Then you start in a conversation, and the AI is really adopting in this conversation. Another way is that we generate quizzes out of this content. So you can use the same content, but now there's quizzes generated out. And then in the future, we're already looking into generating hyper-personalized learning contents, maybe even SCORM trainings completely out of this content. So there's many possibilities. I would recommend reach out later to us or to anybody that has some things. Let's have a separate call. Very happy to guide you, and maybe also recommend some other partners that we're working with.
Sure, would really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you so much, Christine.
Right. Thank you. I think Corona just raised the hand as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that I can't turn my camera on. I'm not I'm not driving, but I'm not in a suitable area. But I wanted to touch on the point about the trainings, because I wanted to say that it's good to have interactive trainings instead of just having workshops and sessions where the participants join. So you have all of this training, then you make it more interactive. I work with Herbiga Veen, and one of the main things that we try to ensure that we have is interactive trainings. So this is going to include having, for example, a pre-work before the session, and having the training must have content that the employees must work on in the session. So it's almost impossible for them to attend the training and just sit there and listen. They have to do something, and with this doing, it comes out most times that they are catching the information, they're leaving with something. And feedback is also really important. The kind of feedback that we get when we present these, for example, the feedback, the findings, the performance, things like this of the training, then of course the board has almost no choice but to say, yes, okay, go ahead, because it's beneficial for the employees. And we also focus a lot on leadership development. So instead of just saying, okay, sales training, okay, this training, then we also try to focus on the leadership components within the training. So when we are picking certain global training, because I work in global L&D, so we are choosing trainings that can benefit our leaders and also other employees later on. What we do after those trainings is to repackage trainings again, as Christian just mentioned. We actually, for example, create e-learnings out of the training. So right now, I just created, we just organized the storytelling training. For example, we had a whole, I don't know, months of different sessions. Repeated sessions, and what we do now is to get all of the information, and we package it into an e-learning, and then we filter it out now so that all the rest of the employees in the company can join, and it's interactive as well. So it's not that you just watch it and go through. You have to watch it and complete the different sections, answer questions in between the e-learning, and then you are finished at the end, and you can leave also a feedback as well. We focus a lot on feedback, as this helps us to ensure that the employees are actually learning from the content that we are paying a lot of money for, and not just sitting there listening and then, calling it another meeting. You have to do something in the training for it to be beneficial for the employees in the long run, and for you to be able to present to the board that the employees are actually learning something. Yeah. So that was my 2 cents on on those points. Because we are focusing a lot on that right now. Even our presentation mastery course, the employees do not come to listen anything. They come to present, and then they don't just learn. They don't learn much. It's like 20 minutes of talking. The session is like 3 hours, 20 minutes of talking, and the rest, every person who attends must present, and you get feedback on your presentation, and then you redo the presentation again. So with this type of learning, it's impossible for you to not get the information. And then when they are presenting to the board now, for example, different person, different managers and so forth, of course their learnings will show, and then we have an easier time to explain why why we need to focus on learning and not have budget cuts in this area.
Thanks, Garna. That was pretty cool. I always tell this, learning and development is so vast, and a lot of times we're now moving towards L&D professionals becoming facilitators more than trainers. To be honest, I think for certain fields, training is essential. However, as we move forward, facilitating whatever it is that is going to be the learning is going to be more important than just sitting here and having a discussion on the training itself. So yeah, great approach. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very interesting. We still have Agatha in the call as well.
Thank you, everybody. I need to leave now. Bye-bye.
Hi, thanks, Samuel. Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, it's actually just past 5, so of course, yeah, we're a bit over, but I think Christian, myself, still have some time. Not sure, Sel maybe as well. So great.
I'm
yeah,
good.
wants to, of course, has anything to ask or to share, please feel free.
Guys, thank you so much for the sessions once again. I'm going into the basement parking now, so I'll take my leave. Thank you for this wonderful sharing. I look forward to join more sessions in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks for joining. See you again. Bye-bye. Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
All right. Hi, Sal. Hi, Max, and hi, Christian, and hello, everyone. So, thank you for inviting me to these sessions. Yes, my name is Zijia. I know it's a bit hard to pronounce. Same as Sal, you can just call me TJ instead. All right. So, apparently, I'm actually still very new to this industry in a way. So, actually, there's a question for me. I do know that as L&D, we need to actually foster the culture of continuous learning. But as we know, if we are facing our target audience who are, for example, for ourselves, which means that money is the only way to motivate them to do something in a way. So is there any other way that any tips or maybe any tools that we can actually unintentionally motivate them to I don't know, to create to be continuous learning in a way?
Hi, TJ. Fair point. I've heard that before. They go, okay, to be honest, for the sales teams I've worked with, money is a deciding factor, or the earning of money, hitting your sales target that's one part for sales, but earning money is everybody that's in this call, right? It's important. So I'd say if you're just focusing on your sales team, one of the easy approaches would be, look, you're a good salesperson, you're here. There's always going to be here and there's always going to be here, right? So how do you want to, if you don't better yourself at what you do, how are you going to, because the second everybody else, if you think you're great now and you bring in the sales, people are going to catch up with you. Other organizations are going to catch up with you. So you've got to always focus on being one step ahead. And how do you be one step ahead? You continuously develop and learn. And how are you going to do that? So read about your industry, read about what's trending, read about what's going to be coming out. Look at your projections, look at how you're going to focus on moving that forward. So it's not going to be so much of, I need to close sales. It is going to be, I need to develop a organic way of growing my sales, right? So yes, it is also going to look at them as an organization that grows, not just hits this great target. You're going to get your bonuses. Everybody goes to town at Chinese New Year and has a really great time. And then we worry again what's going to happen in March, right? When it's all over and the dust settles. So empowering your sales team to continuously develop their approach, continuously develop how they are working on their sales pitch, continuously develop how they work with each other. Because look, at the end of the day, it's not, nobody can silo in this world anymore. We could a long time back. Collaboration is important. So how do they work with building stronger connections? How does sales build a stronger connection to marketing? How does sales build a stronger connection even to HRs? Because everybody needs more people. How do you do that? So in working on their communication skills and all the rest, this far goes beyond just you being in sales, right? However, it's going to ensure that your revenue will develop and grow. So it's never just money. If money was the only factor, I can tell you your sales team could be hitting their target, but they're going to be bored, and eventually it's just that spark is going to die. So having them to look at other areas outside of the spark that they can continuously develop in will keep that spark going. You know what I mean? So they're not so burnt out on just like the chase for the money sort of thing. Hope that helps.
Maybe also to share some experiences back from my time at Siemens, because I was in charge for sales education. So that was the target group I was working with. Let's be open and honest about that. Half of the training is not driving sales. Half of the training for salespeople is how to fill out the CRM system and to collect data for the company. So it is training that is not relevant for the salespeople to generate revenue. So try to cut that to a minimum, because the salespeople, they really want to achieve their targets and their goals. And if the training that we provide them is helping them, then they will take it. They would be crazy if they don't take it. So let's make offers and say, here's tools that really bring you an impact. And another thing is then, of course, to measure that, to look at the sales performance and to look at the kind of trainings they do and say, look, you're worse than your colleagues in terms of sales targets that you're achieving. What are your plans? How do you want to improve that? There is training initiatives we have. They are created by professionals. We are here to help you to achieve this target. So to put some kind of this pressure on them to say, look where you're standing and what you could be able to achieve. And a last point that we see working also extremely well, actually not only with salespeople, is rankings. Just gamify things. And one gamification element could be a ranking where you say, this is the leaderboard, right? Who collected how many knowledge points, or who convinced the AI customer in the best way, collected the most points. And then you look at that on a monthly basis and you celebrate that person, and they get a, I don't know, very small incentive. Doesn't need to be much. It's good enough if they're at the leaderboard. And you also share the last 10 people and you don't say anything, and they will understand, oh shit, I don't want to be in the last 10. So I better do some trainings and I better catch up with some things to get out of that. And this is just one way of gamification. You can also have them challenge each other, and there's many, many things you can do to make it more fun and engaging as well. But I think the core is cut out the crap training that is really only internal administrative stuff, and offer them trainings that are valuable to them, that they can actually take and train themselves.
All right, thank you, Sal and Christian. It's actually very insightful and very helpful. I will take it, and especially the last 10 ranking. That one, I'll do something with that. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, I think a lot of people dropped off already. I think Emma is still on the call, who hasn't had the chance to ask or share anything. So Emma, please, of course, also feel free.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for this morning. It's been really insightful. I work for a medical company in the UK, and before myself, they didn't have an L&D department. So we've built it up over the last 3 years, but now we're coming to a bit of a time of, you know, austerity where budgets are being cut, like I think like a lot of people. So this has come at a really good time for me because I'm just trying to be a little bit clever around what we offer. We would ordinarily outsource the majority of our training because there's only myself as L&D manager and an L&D assistant. But now we're looking to change that. I am a trainer by trade in previous roles. So to enable us to offer something to the whole of our company rather than just a few, because we've got a small budget, we're looking to deliver things in-house and looking, as you say, you know, along the lines of, you know, where we can align with our strategy, what we need to do for our sales enablement and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of a, I think a bit of a rocky road for the next 12 to 18 months, but hopefully after that we might have a bit of an increase or an uplift in budget in 2027 to focus on personal development as well as what we need for our sales enablement, because I'm fully on board with what you've been saying about retention and recruitment costs. I've been banging that drum here for quite some time, but they seem to be focused on the figures and the numbers of money that is being made rather than the potential of people leaving, which has been a real issue for me, really, that they're not thinking about that longer term, that bigger picture of if we're not developing people and we're not investing in our people, then, you know, where we're losing staff, you know, 2, 3, 4 people, even if it's only a small amount from a team of 300, you've still got a significant cost there and time costs as well around that investment in them from their peers to bring them up to speed in, you know, on the job training, even just talking about that rather than everything else that goes along with, you know, advertising costs, all of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been insightful for me. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma.
Cool.
Great.
Just before you ended, Emma, very happy to jump on a call with you. We're pretty much in the same time zone because I'm based in Germany at the moment, and just brainstorm what is possible, how we might help you, or, you know, who I can connect you with to support.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So cool. And Sal, we also need to schedule a call. Definitely very interested in exploring more and sharing some more thoughts about that. So thank you very much for being our keynote speaker for today. Max, thank you very much for organizing the event. And then the rest of the people that are still in the call, thank you for this actually valuable discussions. Asking questions is sometimes more difficult than coming up with some answers. So to ask the right questions is a very important point. And we're very happy if you want to reach out to us later, continue some of the discussions, reach out to Sal, reach out to each other, check yourself in LinkedIn who attended the event. It's really about building a community that can support each other in all different kinds of topics.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you, Max. And thanks everyone else. Thanks, Emma and TJ, for coming in, and everyone else that was here earlier. Probably going to see a recording of this somewhere. So yeah, so take care, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.